Hello folks, the summer project continues as I am collecting up a retro Space Marine army for use in 11th edition 40k, and things have gone very well since we last spoke. Martha is doing her best to obscure an amazing antique from Rogue Trader era 40k, but I think you can probably see it anyway. It is an original Land Raider, and there have been loads of other cool advancements in the project, and some very neat plans that I've got for the rest of the summer have started to take shape. So let's check in on my Space Marine project for the 11th and 2nd editions of 40k. So I think probably one of the things that most people will be asking right now is, have I painted any Space Marines yet? And the answer to that is, I'm sorry to say, no. But I have been making strides towards that part of the project. So I have actually ordered some brand new colour-forged spray paints. I've been thinking about how I'm going to tackle it, and the spray paints with a zenithal felt like a really neat way for me to do a big chunk of my army without sort of having to get too into the detail and without having to be too skilled at some of the stuff. Now, I know it's not always easy to use spray paints to get good effects, but I've seen some really, really fun stuff that just uses a darker colour for the main, like the initial coat, the prime, and then a lighter colour over the top in a zenithal to really bring out a lot of that cool detail, and then you can do things like edge highlights and add details. So I think that is probably going to be my main way of tackling this army, and I'm very hopeful that it works. And I've talked before about the fact that I'm going to be using purples. Colourforge just launched a new purple, so they've got two separate ones, a darker and a lighter one, and I'm really hoping, I've not received them yet, but I'm really hoping that they work as intended, they look as good as they do online, because that will be perfect. One of them matches my channel branding already really, really well. So I'm quite hopeful about that. I'm not sponsored by Colourforge, by the way. That is just that I've seen their paints. I've seen people use them really well. So I'm quite excited to check them out and see if they work for me on this project as well. With the question of the painting out of the way, sort of for now, there's lots more to do in that space. And I'm going to be playing games before I've even finished painting the army, because I've got a game coming up in about a week or two that I'm really looking forward to. But that's very much going to be a tester. I'm going to be building out my army list for that, and I'm going to be playing that and sort of seeing if I can get my head around the 11th edition rules, if I can get my head around using Space Marines, all of that kind of good stuff. But yeah, that's the pilot game. I've also got a game in the diary for later in the year, well, August time. I'm really, really excited about it. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but a mate who has a retro army for 40k and has done an incredible project with it. We're going to be getting together to play a game. I think it's going to be pretty special. So I'm going to share more about that as plans firm up and as everything gets sorted. But yeah, very much looking forward to that. Two old school retro armies going head to head in modern 40k with the 11th edition rules. Yes, can't wait for that one. Okay, now that Martha has chosen to reveal this box properly, we can talk about it. This is something that I was super excited about. If you've watched the previous episodes of the diary, you'll know that I was very eager to get hold of an original Rogue Trader era Land Raider, and that is exactly what was in this box. So this has been provided to me by 7th City Collectables. They didn't want any kind of sponsorship deal, they didn't want an advert, they didn't want anything like that. They just saw my project, we chatted about it, and they were so generous. They sent me this just because they wanted it to be part of the project. I genuinely am amazed. So that's why I wanted to mention them. I have included a link in the description below. Like I say, it's not sponsored, but I just thought that's incredibly generous. I've got to shout these guys out. They do loads of retro stuff. They sell modern 40k stuff, loads of used and secondhand pre-loved miniatures, and it goes right the way back to some of the retro stuff as well. They've got a great website. They are on eBay. I think they do like live streams on eBay, which is a thing now that I wasn't familiar with before. And they also have a store in Nottingham near the city centre, relatively speaking, I believe, that I'm very eager to go and check out. So thank you very much to 7th City Collectables. You guys are awesome, and I am so, so grateful, because this is a dream fulfilled. I can't quite believe it. But yes, a Land Raider, an original in-box Land Raider, no less. So I've got this amazing artifact, this amazing box, which, as you know, I am very much about getting the boxes. I love having this for the archive, for making this part of my collection. But then here is the actual beast itself. A fully, it's been primed, obviously. Someone has started painting it at some point. They've done a one panel green, but I'm going to respray this. I think it should be fine. I'm going to use my Zenithal approach with the purples that I talked about. Then obviously I'm going to do all the details. I will need to add back on some antenna. There was a flagpole in the original miniature as well. The other thing that you might notice is that it's lacking either of the las guns, the twin link las guns that normally come on the sides, and their heavy bolter as well. But I've got a solution for that. So I also found, very luckily, this Space Marine paint set online, which when I took a look inside in the photos, it wasn't listed as anything other than just the Space Marine paint set box, which, by the way, is an amazing box, incredible art, just an absolutely awesome piece. But inside it had a load of like random bits and bobs. So I've taken some of them out because there's quite a lot, but maybe you can see like a load of random stuff in there. A load of RTB01 minis, the Space Marines that have been painted. But amongst the random bits in this box, as well as treads and bits of Rhino, original Rhino, there's a metal jet bike here as well, Rogue Trader era jet bike, no rider. But yeah, some very odd random stuff. But there are also 2 twin-linked las guns from a Land Raider in here. Now, I'm going to have to strip these, remove the paint from these, as I'm going to strip some of the RTB01s, see if they actually survive the process. But yeah, I am really surprised to find these. And that they are actually the only pieces, the key pieces that are missing from the Land Raider. It's almost too good to be true. It's written in the stars. Absolutely incredible. So, an amazing box there with a load of random cool bits in. Some of those Space Marine miniatures might get used, the RTB01s, but we'll come to that in a second. But the Land Raider itself, wow, just awesome. So, really, truly grateful to Seventh City for sending this. But what a miniature. I mean, guys, come on. This. Is this not just beautiful? This is absolutely incredible. It's so iconic. It's so cool. I love the later Land Raiders. I think that they've done amazing work with pretty much every generation of Land Raider. But this is something else. This is so good. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased to have this in my hands, to have this in the collection. Fantastic stuff. So I've now got, like, a fair chunk of stuff has now sort of been accumulated. I have got hold of my Space Marine Scouts. I still need to get hold of, I would like to get a heavy bolter. I've not got hold of one of those yet. But I've got the rest of the Space Marine Scout squad. I have got hold of the Terminator squad, as you've seen before. I now have some RTB01 Tactical Marines, but those are not the Tactical Marines that I want to use. And I have also gotten hold of a Dreadnought that still needs to come and still needs to be assembled. But yeah, very excited about that. 2nd edition Dreadnought, so that's very, very cool as well. So the actual army is shaping up in terms of everything that I've got. I think I might get a chaplain, and I think that might be more or less it for the army, with the addition of some Tactical Marines. Now, I talk about this as being too good to be true. When it comes to the Tactical Space Marines, that's literally the case, because I did find a boxed set of Tactical Space Marines from the Rogue Trader era, an amazing, absolutely stunning box that I really love and have always found to be just totally awesome, and that is the RTB-15 Space Marine Strike Force. Now, these come up occasionally online. You can buy them secondhand, obviously. They include 15 Tactical Marines, just 3 sculpts and a load of plastic arms and backpacks and stuff like that. They're quite rare, but they do turn up. And one turned up relatively recently that was from the States, but it had a load of extra stuff in as well, and I was super excited about it. And I won an auction to get it, and I couldn't be more pleased. It had everything I wanted. It was a great price. It was pristine condition. So I was very excited about it. It ticked every single box. Of course, as I say, some things are too good to be true, and that's what happened with this, because when I opened that box, it wasn't quite what I was expecting. When this parcel arrived, it did not have any Space Marines in it at all. In error, I had been sent something completely different, and that is the Imperial War Altar for Warhammer Fantasy Battles Empire Army. This is a sealed copy of Volkmar on that War Altar. It's an amazing model. Absolutely love it. Would love it in my collection, but this is not what I ordered. So, yeah, it turns out that the actual Space Marine Strike Force had been sent to a different customer, and I had received what they had ordered, which was the Imperial War Altar. Now, I was able to write a quick video that I'm actually quite proud of. It's come together really well, that I'm going to be filming around the Imperial War Altar. Well, I filmed some bits of it already. I'm going to film the rest of it. And then that's going to be a video about special characters in Warhammer. So it's quite themey. It makes a lot of sense. And so a bit of silver lining. But I sent that War Altar back, and unfortunately, things have still not been resolved. So there have been loads of admin nonsense. It's not gone particularly well. I'm quite disappointed. Obviously, it was an understandable error to happen in the first case, but then some of the handling of the post-error issues have not been great. It's not been a very good experience, and ultimately I've been left with nothing. So I'm out of pocket in terms of some of the money, and I'm out of pocket in terms of not having any miniatures at all because I've returned the incorrectly sent thing. Turns out the person who was sent the Space Marines has refused to return them and has requested a refund. So just real scummy behaviour from the other person who's not considering the other parties involved, basically defrauding everybody, it seems like. So that's really, really poor, but the handling from everybody else has been a bit rubbish as well. So I'm quite disappointed with that. I do think I've got another lead on Strike Force, so I'm very hopeful that I'll still be able to get that box, which is I'm really eager to get hold of because I've built a video around it. So the history video that I'm going to be doing about Tactical Marines, exploring that box and exploring the run-up to it and sort of how things evolved. So I'm quite eager to get hold of that. It kind of is the linchpin to that history. And then also, the miniatures that are actually in the box are really lovely. You can get hold of them separately and sort of still pick up a few here and there. But yes, I really like them. I think it's a really neat box. And I want a squad of 10 Tactical Marines in this army. So I can do it with the RTB01s if I clean them up and if they come out of that process okay. But yeah, I'd really love to have the Strike Force Marines from the early 90s because I think that they're great. So where does that leave me at this point? Like I say, I've got a game coming up in not too long. It's like a week or two from now. So I'm probably not going to have anything painted. I think my paint will have arrived. I might have been able to paint some bits and bobs, but I'm probably not going to have a painted force. But I'm going to build out that list. I'm going to see what works and what doesn't work. Obviously, I already have the actual squads in mind that I'm going to be using. I don't know how many points that comes to in 11th edition yet, but I'm eager to see what it's like on the tabletop. It might highlight that, okay, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. We'll see. So that is part of it. And I'm also looking forward to just exploring the 11th edition rules and getting a chance to sort of have an initial game of that and roll some dice. I'm going to be using these as unpainted or like the paint that's already on some of these guys. I'm not going to have finished putting the things back onto this Land Raider. It's literally going to be played like this. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that game. I think it's going to be a good session, good chance to experience current 11th edition 40k and give me some pointers for where things go next in terms of anything else that's missing from the army list or that just makes it an inviable army as is. And then I still need to paint everything. My real sort of big plan for that is for everything to be painted by the game in August. So I'd love to have the whole army fully built out, fully modelled, fully painted, so that I can actually then go head-to-head with another retro army and the two armies together, just looking great. So that's quite exciting. And a real sort of, it feels like the right point in time. That gives me more or less a month or so to sort of bring stuff together, try and get hold of that Strike Force, try and get hold of all the models that I need that are missing, which is very few now, and to paint some stuff up. So that's probably going to be the next diary. I'm also going to talk in that video about my plans for the chapter. So I have settled on doing my own chapter. I'm just doing a homebrew. I was taking a look. Some people pointed out the Tome Keepers, which was a White Dwarf created chapter in like 2020. So I think it's White Dwarf 453. I'm going to take a look in more detail at Tome Keepers. There seems to be a really neat narrative around that that's really tied into White Dwarf itself, which is about that chapter are like the keepers of history when it comes to the battles. So, because obviously White Dwarf is about battle reports, the Tome Keepers, they document all of their battles and they talk about the successes and the weak points in their enemies and how things come together. So they basically sort of made their own battle reporting through White Dwarf into a lore in-universe thing, which I love. I think that's fantastic. That's not quite the angle that I was going for. I think I was thinking more around the sort of, you know, the way in which the Imperium has grown, the way in which the chapters have evolved, the way in which the subsequent successor chapters have shaped the galaxy, that kind of stuff. So the sort of broader history, rather than the battles themselves, which, you know, feels very appropriate to White Dwarf. What feels very appropriate to me and the work I do being the sort of broader narrative, if that makes sense. So that's where I think the angle that I'm going to take in terms of the lore for my chapter. I haven't settled on an idea for the name. I did note that the Tome Keepers were created at the same time as the Astral Hounds, and that the two were sort of vying for which was going to be the official White Dwarf chapter. The Astral Hounds, although their lore is not quite what I would have, their colour scheme is very close to the purple that I'm going to use. So it's very interesting, just, you know, parallel thoughts, unless I've been subconsciously informed by those White Dwarfs, which I don't think so. I remember reading something about the Tome Keepers, but I can't remember if I read and followed that particular stuff. But yeah, the fact that the lore for one of their chapters and the colour scheme for the other of their chapters together kind of give the sense of what I'm trying to do, I think is quite funny. But yes, I'm going to be doing my own homebrew, some sort of Sorcerian chapter, who are all about the STCs and the evolution of Space Marine armor and the technology and the way in which the Space Marines have informed the galaxy and the Imperium over time. I think also I'm going to be a bit more open to skewing into a dark side to these loyalist Space Marines. So they're not going to be chaos by any means, but I think I will highlight some of that edge of, you know, these guys are trying to preserve history and, you know, learn lessons from it, but not always the right lessons, I suppose. So I think that that's going to be quite interesting. But yes, I will talk about that as I do a bit of painting, a sort of painting vlog or painting diary. That's what I think will be next. And I also need to shore up my army list, but that proper sort of finalized army list will probably come after my test game and some of that stuff as well. So there you go. We're making progress. I've in terms of the collecting, which is always my favorite part. In terms of the collecting, we're doing okay. In terms of the painting, long way to go, but I'm making progress on that. I've got hold of the paints. I've been chatting to some painters and sort of getting some advice and some, you know, techniques that I think will be appropriate, and I've got a plan for that. So yeah, it feels like we're on track, and then I've got milestones. I've got games in the diary. I've got plans for those games. So I think we're doing all right. This project so far is looking good. And of course, because I've now got hold of the Land Raider, I'm going to be able to make my history video all about it. So I'm going to be taking a look at it in a dedicated video at the development history of the Land Raider as a kit for Rogue Trader, for 40k, and how that evolved and changed over time. So that is something that I'm really excited about. That's coming up. Hopefully that'll be the next video on the main channel. That's currently the plan. So keep your fingers crossed, and that should be out relatively soon. Okay, so there you go. That's the update. Hopefully you are enjoying seeing this sort of project come together. I know I've still not really shown off the army in its entirety, and I know I need to paint these guys, but with some stories coming up from test games and things like that, I think that we're on track for this to be quite a successful project. You know, it's a summer project over a couple of months to collect, build, and paint, and then play with an army. And I'm ticking most of those boxes so far. So fingers crossed, we keep on this track and everything goes well. Let me know in the comments how your summer projects are going. Have you been having success in getting hold of whichever miniatures you want, or assembling, or painting, or playing with your latest armies? I'd love to hear about it. And until next time, thank you very much for watching. I'm Jordan, and this is Jordan Sorcery.